Still learning how to use this system. Hey guys, I'm getting my coffee ready and I thought I would just do this with you and talk about this one, channel 4, or excuse me, channel 4. That's the downside of doing this live, is that you make mistakes, you just got to roll with it. So I'm in my kitchen, I'm making myself some coffee real fast, and we're going to talk about step number 4. So the last couple of days we've been talking about going from drift to drive, and to do that, there's steps. And so we're going backwards. We're going to reverse engineer the conversation. So we talked about drive, and to get into drive, you've got to make a decision. And so we talked about decision. And so from decision, you have to get in a position to actually go through the threshold of decision. If you didn't watch that one, you got to go back and watch that one. It's probably like a 3 to 4 minute video. And essentially, you've got to have, there's 3 critical factors to create an actual decision. So if you want to get into that, the one thing that a lot of people love to skip, right, is let's say, oh, I want to get healthier. I'm going to make a decision to be healthy. Or I'm going to make a decision to go to the gym or eat different. And until you go through this step of being disturbed, you're probably not going to have a long-lasting decision. You're not going to actually go through the full process of threshold. So you've got to get disturbed. Well, how do you get disturbed? What do I mean by that? Well, first off, every true decision first starts with an emotion. People think, well, that's just a mental thing. You just make a decision. Well, our activity, our action never follows from just a thought. It has to go from a thought to an emotion to an action. See, we don't do what we think, we do what we feel. And we may need to just let that settle for a moment. We don't do what we think, we do what we feel. And until you get into an emotional spot where you create decision, you're probably not going to actually have a decision. Does that make sense? You're just going to have a wish. You're going to have a fleeting moment where just in this moment. But if you're not going to actually get emotional, you're probably not going to follow through. You're never going to really get into all 3 critical pieces to that threshold that we talked about. So if that's the case, we got to get disturbed, right? We got to get so emotionally connected to the idea that we're going to make this change. We're going to make this move. We're going to take this action. You probably won't. So I'm going to ask you today, and we'll talk about it on the next video, on how to get what happens before you get disturbed. A little bit more fun, but it's also where we tend to float around and why we kind of drift most of the time. But if you're going to get a change in your life, if you're going to make a decision to get into drive, you're going to have to get way more disturbed. Well, here's a quick way to get there, formula on getting disturbed. Focus very heavily, maybe write out a notes for yourself, a list. Reasons why. Get real. That's probably the best way for me to put this. Get real, because once we talk about this, sorry, this is what happens. You get a text message and then you get thrown off. Focus, Spencer. To get into decision, you got to get disturbed. So here's how we get disturbed. Make a list. And we're going to talk about this, what happens prior to this. So this is not a difficult process if you've been moving into this role. All right. So step number 4 here, you're going to have to list out all the reasons, and don't lie to yourself, right? Your life is not what it should be. And you got to get yourself into such a frenzy of internal disturbance that you eventually make a decision, to where you get to the point where you say, not again, never again. I've had a couple of those moments in my life. Doesn't happen until you actually list out for yourself and get yourself into an emotional position. And guys, most of the time, are like, I don't get emotional. That's not what I do. What do you think anger is? Maybe you need to get angry at how your life is. If that's what it takes, then get angry. Or maybe you feel like you've lost out on what you've been doing and you want to go in a different direction with a huge sense of love. Fine. But you've got to get emotionally disturbed before you'll ever make a solid 3-piece threshold decision. So, next video we're going to cover the subject of dreaming. That's how you get disturbed, by the way. So, all right, guys, that's enough. This video got all the way up to 6 minutes, so we're gonna need to calm it down a little bit. Y'all have a good one. Take care. Keep well. Keep moving forward.